Every day, a hero is reborn. She finds herself, her voice, and her purpose. Not because life handed it to her freely, but because she chose to accept life's gift of grace bravely.
Blessings, blessings, blessings. Welcome to Nurses News Network. Hey, Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. Today, I am doing a special broadcast. My goal is to get us back into the algorithm. On this particular broadcast, what we do is we talk about healthcare topics, trending healthcare topics. As you guys know, I am a legal nursing consultant, a travel nurse. I talk about that sometimes. I incorporate that into my content. I'm talking to my YouTube family. Shout out to Rumble. I want to say I love you guys. I know I haven't been live for a while. We're going to reintroduce our Nurses to Nurses News Network page on Rumble, and we're going to get back to doing what we do. Usually every Thursday, I will have a series highlighting healthcare topics, trending healthcare topics, or things that may be controversial for some. But what we do is we give the good, bad, the ugly, and we also give the A&P and the pathophysiology. So this is going to be the only broadcast that we actually do on Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. I wanted to introduce this topic to you guys. I want to send a shout out to our mod, Miss Valerie. Please let me know if you want to be on part 2 of this, because what we do is do segments. So we'll start off by introducing a topic of, what's going on, what they say is good, what other people are saying. So we're going to basically do the good, bad, and the ugly a little bit today. And then in our next broadcast, we're going to try to see if maybe Ms. Valerie want to come and give some of her testimony, especially after hearing some of the testimony today about what we found. And you can always find real case information or real life situations on TikTok. So we do have some TikTok videos that's highlighting people opinion about Ozempic. Know that this is for information and educational purposes only. We don't fat shame. We are not promoting any product. We are not going against any product. What we do here on Nurses to Nurse News Network with Nurse Lashley, we go over everything. Okay, so what we're going to start with is, as you know, a lot of medications are sold at different price. It can be generic or they can be having a brand name, but usually they're supposed to have the same type of effects. So we have just about, I'm going to do 15 minutes of a CBS News broadcast of Ozempic makers testify about weight loss drug, the price during the Senate hearing. So we're going to just hear a little bit from Senator Sanders and maybe one more person. And then we're going to get into a little bit more of what Ozempic is, just a brief touching of what it is. And then we're going to get into what they say versus what others say. Okay. So if you're into this type of information, please hit the like button, as well as you're going to see a link to our Rumble page. At the end, we're going to go to our Rumble page and show you guys what we've been working with over the last year or so. We did take a break. I missed you, Rumble, but we're going to try to come back every Thursdays midday about 2 or 3 p.m. Okay, so let's start watching this together and see, because there is always a price issue when let's say any type of commodity is considered a commodity and a bunch of people want it. Okay, so let's listen to what they're doing to the American people in relation to this particular drug.
Ozempic is sold in Canada for $155.
No one seems to know this, but Amazon actually has a...
Let's go. Okay.
In Denmark for $122, in France for $71, and in Germany for $59. In the United States, Novo Nordisk charges us $969. over 15 times more than they sell that product in Germany. Wegovy, Novo Nordisk weight loss drug, is even more expensive. As the chart behind me also shows, Wegovy is sold for $265 in Canada, $186 in Denmark, $137 in Germany, and $92 in the United Kingdom. In the US, the list price for Wegovy is $1,349 a month, nearly 15 times as much as it costs in the United Kingdom. What we are dealing with today is not just an issue of economics. It is not just an issue of corporate greed. It is a profound moral issue. Novo Nordisk has developed game-changing drugs, which, if made affordable, can save the lives of tens of thousands of Americans every year and significantly improve the quality of life of millions more, if made affordable. If not made affordable, Americans throughout this country will needlessly die and suffer. As representatives of the American people, we cannot allow that to happen. And let's be clear.
I'm a little confused here, y'all. I'm just a little confused. They said that this is a life-saving drug. I'm going to keep listening, okay? I'm writing this down so we could come back and talk about this, okay?
The outrageously high cost of Ozempic, Wegovy, and other prescription drugs is directly related to the broken, dysfunctional, and cruel healthcare system in our country. While the current system makes huge profits for large drug companies like Novo Nordisk, huge profits for insurance companies, and huge profits for PBMs, it is failing the needs of ordinary Americans. In the United States today, we spend almost twice as much per capita on healthcare as the people of any other country. Nearly $13,500 for every man, woman, and child, over 17% of our GDP. Yet, despite this huge and unsustainable expenditure, we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. Further,
because he's expanding this conversation pretty, wide, talking about in healthcare coverage. But let's go into the next person, see what he has to say. But I wanted to highlight that you already see that there is a market grab for this, and there is some price gouging that's going on, what I consider price gouging, especially when you consider this same medicine being sold internationally. And we always have that. And Sanders is right about that. There's every medication that they sell in America, they hike it up 15% or more. Okay. And that's why you see Americans going over to other countries sometimes to get things done. And that becomes dangerous. Okay. Let's just see a little bit what he has to say. And then we're going to get into weight loss with Ozempic in clinical trials review. This was 1 year ago. Okay. We're going to pull this up, international medicine exploitation. So you know what I do. Once we get into part 2, we're going to get into the A&P of it. You're going to understand how it works on the body. And we're also going to get into clinical studies. Okay, we will definitely go down deep. Please hit the like button and join the family. All right, so let's just hear what he has to say.
Healthcare cost unless we effectively address obesity. Now we have GLP-1s.
Wait a minute. What did he say? What did he say?
drugs could cost us tens of thousands of lives. And
I'm trying to get to the next sentence. It sounds like he's correlating
unimaginable amount of
with our current
Congress and the administration have a moral responsibility to act now, act boldly, and to protect the American people. Senator Cassidy, you are now recognized for an opening statement.
All right.
Chair Sanders, nearly 1 in 3 Americans live with obesity. Nearly 1 in 10 have type 2 diabetes. I'm a physician. I'm very aware of the implications of that. There are so many complications. Obesity leads to more chronic disease than any other condition. taking lives and causing almost 173 billion in healthcare spending a year. It's almost impossible to bring down healthcare costs unless we effectively address obesity. Now we have GLP-1s. They have the promise to address both obesity and the complications that result. They're expensive. Now we can argue about the net versus the list, but they're expensive. But let me say, without a profit motive, without something in return, it's unclear that these drugs or any drug is going to be developed. There is a tension between the need to incentivize innovation and the ability to afford that innovation. And we are here struggling with that balance. Now, if anyone thinks going after big pharma is the silver bullet that if you do that, boom, healthcare costs or drug costs go down, they don't understand what happens with pricing a drug. There is no silver bullet. But as my
it is a silver bullet some way, somehow, if it can be priced less in other countries. And we're just going to stop there. But just some of the things that they said in the first 5 minutes as they talked about. And I do agree. Obesity is directly correlated to increased death rates related to hypertension, diabetes. This is something that we have, cardiac arrest. This is what we have. These are high thresholds of diseases in America compared to other countries. But what's alarming to me, and I'm just going to be honest, because I'm going to say it, it is a push for more pharmaceutical relief than kind of lifestyle changes. Okay, what we do here, we focus on passive weight loss and changing your diet and understanding what you eat. And it's so funny that this is the only country, and we're going to have to say that allows certain foods made in the lab to be widely distributed to the people. And it seems like I may think, just it could be a correlation, with what's going on here, because a lot of the foods that are allowed here in America are actually banned in other countries. We're going to reference back at the end of the video of a few of our videos, and we do consecutive series on chemical foods, okay, foods that are literally made in the lab, and we are still learning how our body adapts to that. So it does make me feel a way that this is always the push, and they're considering this Ozempic the magic bullet. And as you're gonna see, that it may have been, and I know, according to what I'm going to show you in part 2, that the clinical trials are kind of still going on now, because Ozempic was originally made for diabetes control. This is what it was made for, but they found that it can help with weight loss. So I would assume they have chosen to use this medication more for a weight loss medication under the guise of saying, hey, it's going to lower the threshold of people actually getting diabetes. Okay. But let's get to this, because we're going to try to find out more of when this miracle drug was created, how the clinical trials are going. Are we actively in one? And the good, bad, and the ugly. You know what we do here.
Since Ozempic got the attention of the Oscars, we thought we will review the efficacy of Ozempic in clinical trials. Ozempic is currently indicated to improve glycemic control in adults with type 2 diabetes mellitus. It can also be used to reduce the risk of major adverse cardiovascular events, including cardiovascular death, non-fatal MI, non-fatal stroke in adults with type 2 diabetes mellitus, and established cardiovascular disease. Ozempic is a GLP-1 receptor agonist. By activating the GLP-1 receptor, Ozempic stimulates insulin secretion and lowers glucagon levels, thereby reducing blood glucose concentration. Ozempic also delays gastric emptying and thus may induce early satiety. Moving on to the clinical trials data. In a 30-week double-blind trial involving 388 patients, Ozempic use led to a significant reduction in.
Pay attention to the numbers. Okay. This is what we highlight. This is what we taught our audience, the actual capacity of a clinical trial. And sometimes it can have 500 people, 10 people, 1,000 people. You want to pay attention to the numbers because this is how they get their medium number of how it works or how it don't work. Highlighting that we have billions of people on the planet. I just have to highlight that. So this is how the clinical trial went. Sometimes they do it, it becomes uncontrolled. What they're supposed to do, kind of keep it in a controlled type of environment using, certain type of people following up. They have a 30-week follow-up, but with any medication, it's always supposed to be followed up to like 7 years. Okay. So they talk about the placebo here, and we're going to hear about it. And as you heard, the original um, job of this medication was to lower the blood glucose levels, lower the insulin is going to end. I'm sorry, increasing the insulin, lowering the blood glucose level. And they talked about the GLP-1 receptor. So we're going to get into that in part two when we get into the anatomy and physiology and see how it actually works. Because you got to consider that people who are taking this are not diabetics at this particular point. Does that make sense? So that's why we have to pay attention a little bit more because it is making non-diabetics, according to this, increase their insulin, which lower their blood sugar and can make them hypoglycemic and other things. But we're going to move forward, okay?
HbA1c as compared to placebo in patients with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes mellitus. Of 1.4% and a 1 milligram dose led to an A1C reduction of
That's
1.6%.
good.
Placebo use led to an A1C reduction of just 0.1%. Patients on zero point 0.5 milligrams of Ozempic had a weight loss of 3.8 kg. A 1 milligram dose led to a higher weight loss of 4.7 kg. Patients on placebo lost 1.2 kg of weight during this 30-week trial.
See, look, people who took the placebo, though, look at that. They had a number 1.2 kg. They lost some weight because sometimes it's mind over matter. Let's keep that in mind.
Next trial was a 56-week double-blind clinical trial. In this, Ozempic was studied against sitagliptin. 1,231 patients with type 2 diabetes were randomized to receive either Ozempic 0.5 milligrams, 1 milligrams, or sitagliptin 100 milligrams once daily. All patients in this trial were on metformin and or
Hold on.
thiazolidinediones.
Give me 1 second, y'all, because I didn't get down to milligrams because they said that uncontrolled diabetes have a higher amount of medicine they take. And we need to figure out how much are they just prescribing to people who are non-diabetics, everybody who's large don't mean they have diabetes. And then you have some people that I've seen take this who I didn't consider large, but they was like, I need to lose this belly fat. And I'm like, okay. So that's why we're going to pay attention to this. I just want to listen again.
Were on metformin and or thiazolidinediones. Treatment with Ozempic led to a statistically significant reduction in A1C as compared to sitagliptin. Patients on zero point 0.5 milligrams of Ozempic had an HbA1c reduction of 1.3%. 1 milligram of Ozempic had a reduction of A1c of 1.5%, and a reduction of only 0.7% was seen in sitagliptin patients.
I don't know. That's another
A
one.
weight loss of 4.2 kg was seen with Ozempic 0.5 milligrams and 5.5 kg was seen with Ozempic 1 milligram. Patients on sitagliptin had lost 1.7 kg of body weight. Next, in a 56-week open-label trial, 813 patients with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes on metformin alone or metformin with sulfonylurea were randomized to Ozempic 1 milligram once weekly or exenatide 2 milligrams once weekly.
Okay.
Treatment with Ozempic led to a statistically significant reduction in A1C of 1.4% as compared to 0.9% with exenatide. The mean reduction of body weight was 4.8 kg with Ozempic as compared to 2 kg with exenatide. The next trial was a 30-week open-label trial. 1,089 patients with type 2 diabetes were randomized to Ozempic 0.5 milligram once
Wait a
weekly.
minute. I'm sorry. I'm over here kind of thinking, okay, when I know when patients take insulin, is usually like on a sliding scale, and it's like a 0.1 milligram, 0.1 or 0.01. I think it's 0.01 because it's a 1 ml syringe that we use. I'm just over here thinking we use a 1 ml syringe that's skinny when we pull some up. And sometimes we get dose depending on patient blood sugar. We give 0.05 or 0.01, depending on the sliding scale. But they give 1 milligram. Like I told you, we use 1 milligram syringes. So I'm over here kind of like, wait a minute. So I want to know the health teachings behind this. Do they tell y'all to eat when y'all get this shot? Because they say that it lower the sugar. I'm a little bit, because like if I'm just kind of thinking from a clinical perspective. Sometimes we have people who are really, big, and with that, sometimes they have uncontrollable diabetes, and what end up happening, they have to get more and more insulin. And it's been some patients who have taken one full syringe, like it was like 1 ml, and then I had to give a little bit more in another syringe because the dose was higher than normal. But that was in that case. So I'm sorry, I kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. So these are some of the things that I think people need to pay attention to, because I would assume that it drops the blood sugar a lot with that dose.
1 milligram once weekly, or insulin glargine once daily. Insulin glargine was used on an average of 10 units on a background of metformin or metformin and sulfonylurea. A statistically significant A1C reduction of 1.2% was seen with Ozempic 0.5 milligrams as compared to 1.5% with Ozempic 1 milligram.
All right. So what we're going to do is stop here with this, because this is what we're going to follow up in part 2 when we get into anatomy and physiology. Going to make it a little bit corny. You know what we do. But this opened up a lot of questions for me as well, especially with the health teaching. And as you see, this is 1 year ago during a clinical trial where they were focusing on controlling A1C. If you don't know what A1C is basically a long-term glucose value that we pay attention to as healthcare providers, and you do too, as people who have diabetes, that will tell us how you're controlling it. So we want your A1C to stay on a lower range, lower than a 3. I think it's lower than a 3. So what they're saying, this is how much the A1C has decreased in a short amount of time, which is good. I don't know the effects of it, but it's good. Okay, so they also use other insulins with this to create the effect of weight loss. So that was something you need to pay attention to. We're going to go more on that on part 2 when we talk about the A and P of it. But I just wanted you to see what was the original. Okay, so the science behind Ozempic and other weight loss drugs. Now, this was from the Washington Post last year. Let's see what they have to say. We're going to listen to the mainstream, and then we're going to get to the scientists. I miss you guys. I haven't did this in months. I missed you guys. Please hit the like button if this is the information that you are into, especially if you're into health and wellness, because the more that you take care of yourself, the cheaper your healthcare bill is and the longer you live. Okay, let's keep it moving.
When I look around this room, I can't help but wonder, is Ozempic right for me?
Host Jimmy Kimmel's joke during the Oscars touched on the worst kept secret in Hollywood.
The popular diabetes drug that some are using for weight loss.
Oh!
I'm sorry, her head looked like she used Ozempic. Her head was big, her body was small. Y'all know I Nurse Lashley be having jokes. Look at her. Go ahead. I be hearing this song in my sleep. They program us with this. I even sing this song. This is ridiculous.
Called Ozempic to lose weight. On average, people taking it or similar anti-obesity drugs lost an average of 15 to 20% of their body weight.
Ask your healthcare provider today about once weekly Ozempic.
But what is Ozempic and other drugs like it?
The new drugs were originally designed for type 2 diabetes. And when they started testing them, they noticed that a side effect of these drugs was a considerable amount of weight loss. There are 3 right now. Their brand names are Ozempic and Wegovy.
Wegovy helped us lose weight and keep it off.
And then a third one is Mounjaro, which is a somewhat different drug.
And Mounjaro can help decrease how much food you eat.
These injectable drugs improve blood sugar levels in adults with type 2 diabetes. They're also prescribed to help people lose weight.
Ask your doctor about once-weekly Mounjaro.
But to understand how these drugs work, first we have to know how the brain regulates weight. The human brain is a complex web of connections. Think of it as a highway like the one connecting the East Coast I-95. There are 2 roads or pathways that the brain uses for appetite management. Pathway 1 tells us to eat less and store less. And pathway 2 tells us to eat more and store more. A person who is typically more lean tends to signal to pathway 1. They don't have to tell their brain to do it, it just does it. But for obese or pre-obese people, there's less flow to pathway 1. The active ingredients on these drugs stimulate pathway 1, increasing the feeling of satiation and decreasing hunger, while suppressing pathway 2. But they also work in a few other ways on the body.
All right, so we already know that it's a transmission mechanism in this, so we're gonna pay attention to that neuro, because when we're looking for side effects and issues, we are looking for what it works on. Okay.
The things they do is slow movement through your GI tract. So when you go to eat something, it moves really slowly through the GI tract. You can imagine if you eat breakfast and it's still moving really slowly, what happens at lunchtime? You're probably going to still be a bit full because it's moving pretty slow. You're like, oh, I don't think I'm that hungry. It also improves how our body secretes insulin, which is in our pancreas.
Insulin is a hormone that takes the sugar in your blood and puts it in your cells, which they use for energy.
And it does one additional thing. It browns our white fat tissue. When our fat tissue is brown in color, we burn more at rest than if it's more white in color. So
stop it. Let's just go back to what he said about that, because I think I got to clarify something.
Tissue is brown in color.
They use for energy.
It secretes insulin, which is in our pancreas.
Insulin is a hormone that takes the sugar in your blood and puts it in your cells, which they use for energy.
The way he explained it was kind of messed up. The insulin breaks down the sugar that's within the cell, lowering the sugar intensity. So you have more of these, you can get more of the sugar molecules broken down. Because I was saying, what he say? That's what insulin do. It binds to sugar and it breaks it down. So if you have a lot of insulin and not enough sugar, not enough food, that's why people who are hypoglycemic, their sugar go down, because they may have like more insulin shooting out than they supposed to. So let's just clarify that, because I said, what did he say?
And it does one additional thing. It browns our white fat tissue. When our fat tissue is brown in color, we burn more at rest than if it's more white in color. So kind of brown fat tissue, more desirable. And so these are some of the key ways in which these drugs.
The 2 tissues, the tissue transmission she's talking about, brown white tissue, that happens from sugar molecules that are, you have hypercholesterol, you have a lower cholesterol mechanism. So these sugar molecules, for instance, sugar, white bread, they coincide to making the white type of sugar that burns faster, that makes you need to get more of it, and maybe a little bit addictive. The brown sugar, that you can get some of that. That's why they tell, and it's funny, it's brown and white, but like, for instance, they tell diabetics, if their sugar going low, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, brown. You see what I'm saying? Graham crackers, brown. Things like that is really funny they say that, but that's how I teach my patients to remember, because that brown bread, that wheat, that sugar molecule will stay longer, won't burn as fast, and it will level out your sugar. So that's what she's talking about when she talk about brown and white fat. I'm like, what is she talking about? But we're gonna break it down to layman's terms, but we're gonna make you understand on an A&P level here.
Work on the body to really shift weight in an individual.
The Mayo Clinic says these drugs mimic the action of a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1. Doctors say the GLP-1s appear to help curb hunger, slow the movement of food, and as a result, you may feel full faster and longer, so you eat less. But as with any drug, there are side effects.
The main ones are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, a lot of gastrointestinal issues. However, as they figure out the correct dose for you, that often subsides. There is the potential for more serious side effects like pancreatitis and other inflammatory diseases.
Stop. I'm gonna have to get the red like pancreatitis is one of the worst type of, if you have pancreatic cancer, is the worst type of cancers they get. They are usually the hardest to diagnose. And with that goes to say it's more of affinity to catch patients on the last stages of that. So as we know, it works on the pancreas, and that's what I'm a little bit nervous about. So as we go into NIH website and look at some of the studies, we're going to see if it goes towards that way, what we just said. Okay. Got everything moving right. It's making kind of sense. When he went over that real fast, and I'm like, wait. No. The pancreas is something not to play with. Okay. Yeah.
Doria Moreno, a 21-year-old veterinary student in Chile, said her doctor prescribed Ozempic because she has insulin resistance. She said she felt nauseous at first, but that the results outweigh her side effects.
Bueno, después de ese video me llegó tanto apoyo como muchísimo hate, de hecho mucho más de lo que esperaría. Comentarios como, Linda, ¿por cuánto tiempo te lo recetó tu doc y la dosis? Me parece mal que jueguen así con su vida.
She was talking about the dose. It seems wrong to me that people play with their lives and that of others. This is, I guess, she reading some of her comments. Let's read what's going on.
También con los demás, los diabéticos van a la farmacia y por gente así.
Diabetics go to the pharmacist, and that's a store of insulin because people like you. They're short. I'm sorry, I do apologize. They're short of insulin because of people like you. And I'm kind of trying to figure out, and I may have to talk to a girlfriend who kind of the doctor she worked for prescribed this, but that's what it seemed like, that they're giving gurgling insulin out too. That's the long acting insulin. So I wonder, are they giving it to non-diabetics? This is some of the things that we're probably going to get into part 3. All right, let's listen.
No hay insulina.
Victoria has been on the medication for 4 months and has lost close to 42 pounds.
And you have to stay on it for life. But there are lots of drugs that people are on for life. Blood pressure lowering medication, stat.
Let's stop. Did you just hear this? Now, I did not know this, and I don't know if many people know this. He's saying that you have to be on this for life. And I don't know if this is from a diabetic perspective or this is from a weight loss, but we're going to hear what people have to say from their live encounters when we get to the TikTok videos.
And other diabetes drugs.
But some of these drugs are being prescribed off-label for people who want to lose weight but don't necessarily need it for their health. The massive popularity of these drugs is creating a shortage for people who need it.
The companies that make these meds were not expecting the degree of demand. And so I think there's a collision of storms. According to the most recent data, which was my study published in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings, only about 1% of individuals that meet criteria for medications are actually on them.
But look, this market is gigantic. There are predictions that this group of drugs could be the biggest selling in pharmaceutical history.
All right, so shout out to Washington Post. And now we're going to get into Sharon Osbourne lost too much weight on Ozempic, but she doesn't regret it. Why her case is uncommon. Now let's listen to this, okay? Let's get that off the screen because this was what made Ozempic popular. Because of the stars was allegedly losing so much weight, people started to try to figure out what was going on. So let's get into this. This is brought to you by USA Today. Sherry Osbourne was one of the first few.
Study, what they found is that these patients were losing like a significant amount of weight. When they found that out, they they got approval from the FDA to use it as a weight loss medication. It's not something that you should be on for a lifetime. Just think of it as something to help you jumpstart your weight loss journey, and just keep in mind that ultimately it's going to take some effort from you, and that includes some lifestyle modifications, what you eat, and then exercise.
It says at least one lawsuit has been filed against the drug maker for severe stomach issues. I did come across a video where allegedly someone had an ostomy that had to be placed. So let's keep listening.
Do your research, find out about the medication, make sure that you're going to a qualified individual or medical care professional, and then make sure you just follow the instruction.
It jumped over to that nonsense. Let's get to it. So now, frustrated with her consistent fluctuation rate, Sharon Osbourne started taking Ozempic, a medicine intended for the treatment of type 2 diabetes that causes weight loss, last December. Although people are expecting to take the drug long term, Osbourne says she already gone off of it because she couldn't stop losing weight. I've lost 42 pounds and I can't afford to lose no more. Osborne, 71, told the Daily Mail last month, I'm too gaunt and I can't put any weight on. I want to because I feel too skinny. Yes, Osborne wouldn't walk by. It says, yet Osborne wouldn't walk back on her decision to start the medication in the first place. I don't regret it, she said Monday on a UK talk show. Lose women. Everything with weight with me was I want it now. The injection that I was on worked, but it just seemed that now I can't put anything on really. If I could, I'll put back another 10 pounds on, Osborne said, who now weighs under 100 pounds. Honestly, I'm not being fictitious, but she may need to get checked. She need to get her pancreas checked, because when we see something like that in a hospital setting, we go check for what I just told you about. And the reason why we're kind of keeping our language censored here is because we're still on YouTube. But, once we're off, we're going to talk directly. As you know, guys, I am a nurse of 11 years, and what I say is from my clinical experience, as well as I love to learn and read. And just learn. I just love to learn. So I like to share that with people so people could be really well-rounded. And one of our jobs as healthcare providers is to do educational teaching, and that was the best part to me. To go there and talk. Did you know that? Okay, so let's get it there. Basically, in this article, Miss Sherry Osborne is complaining about losing too much weight and being under 100 pounds. And she said, I could do with putting on a few pounds, Osborne said during November 24th appearance in the UK talk show Good Morning Britain. It says, but at this point, the way my body is, it's not listening. It's staying where it is. So why has Osborne lost so much weight? Osborne Ozempic experience raised an important question about the scenario not many people imagine they'll find themselves in when starting or stopping weight loss drugs. How common is to lose too much weight and struggle to gain it back? After all, people are far more likely to experience the opposite, allegedly. Most studies show that the people who are overweight can regain some or most of the weight they lost within a year after coming off the medication such as Ozempic, Mounjaro, approved to treat diabetes, as well as Wegovy and Zip Bomb. These are the other new ones because somebody was mentioning that. All right, so basically one of the, can I say, side effects is, I mean, it's not a, how can I say, this is not a sustainable treatment, and it seems like you must be on it forever to sustain a weight loss, and may have a risk of losing too much weight, according to Miss Ozzy. Okay, so Sharon Osbourne, I said Miss Ozzy, Sharon Osbourne. Okay, so this was one of the first celebrities that were out there, and people started looking at her. Let me see. Can I get a picture of her? We're gonna have to see. Can we get an image of Miss Osbourne at this time? Look at my baby. Oh no, no. Let's take this. Oh, I think. Look at this. Look at my boo. This is Miss Osbourne before and after, as y'all can see, and she's pretty small. Pretty small. You see her face? Okay, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna keep on moving down this train and see what other people have to say as well. We're gonna get in. You can always get real life testimonies on TikTok. They demonstrate it all through. So it says Ozempic drug makers boost lobbying as it seeks medical coverage for weight loss drugs. So this was 1 year ago. And right now, I'm not sure if insurance cover Ozempic, honestly, because I'm going to have to put another phone call out to her. I told her I was back in the A. She may have been busy. I'm going to reach out to the nurse that I know working with him. But I did overhear her saying that insurance don't cover it. I may be in the state of Georgia, but they don't cover it. And she was saying a series of shots will have to be paid for it, and it is a series of shots. But my thing is, you're gonna get the series of shots, and then you're gonna have to come back to re-up. So let's play this.
A 2003 law excludes weight loss drugs from coverage under Medicare. Novo Nordisk, the company behind Wegovy and Ozempic, is on a lobbyist hiring spree to change that. The Danish drug maker is pushing Congress to pass the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act.
And that's what we were just seeing in the beginning, that Senate meeting, okay?
That would nix Medicare restrictions on covering weight management treatments. Novo Nordisk has hired 3 new lobbying firms over the past 3 months, all of which disclosed being solely focused on issues related to obesity and Medicare coverage of anti-obesity treatments. There are more lobbyists than ever on the Novo Nordisk payroll. In the first half of 2023, Novo Nordisk spent nearly $2.9 million on federal lobbying for a range of policy issues, including obesity drug coverage and the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act. While the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act has stalled each time it's been reintroduced in Congress over the past decade, drug makers are capitalizing on.
We're going to follow up on this because we do have a clip of the actual drug maker, that his actual part where he's on in the meeting. I'm a little alarmed that we have to have a bill about weight loss in America. That says a lot when we actually can just change our lifestyle and the type of foods that we have in our grocery store. I'm just going to be honest. This is a little alarming because I wonder what goes into this bill. That may be something we need to follow up on. And this clip is actually brought to us by The Hill, okay?
Several new factors to plead their case. Public demand for the weight loss drug is high, and initial clinical trials recently suggested Wegovy reduces the risk of serious heart problems. Health trade groups, including the American Diabetes Association, have also rallied behind the bill. And qualifying federal employees are now eligible for anti-obesity medication coverage.
So qualified federal employees can get it under their coverage. But as you know, it's a little weird to have something like this on the market that may need a lifetime support if the person can't control their eating habits and keep their weight down, because allegedly it's going to be a bill like people, against, got to lose weight. They will have to be on this medication and pay up to $1,300. Did they say $1,349 a month in supplies in America? This may can I say, pose a risk, because if Americans can go to another country and get it, and we don't know but the manufacturers, we don't know how they, regulate their drugs, being distributed, storage. It's just like what people were doing before, where they were going to other countries to get the BBLs done. Let's see, can I get this for free? Let's see, can we, Bloomberg, let us read what he say. Ozempic Nova $1,000 diabetic shot can be made for under $5 a month. Maybe we won't be able to read it. They want us to pay for it. But we already know, obviously, see, and you heard the gentleman who was lobbying, where he was like earlier, what he was saying, he was like, there's no threshold when it comes to medication and its price. And as you can see, we didn't get into that article, but it says that one of these drugs can be made for $5. Okay. Highlighting that it can be sold as low as $10, $15 in other states. It has to be lower than what is sold in other countries. Other countries, as I stated, as I corrected. Does that make sense? So they totally taking advantage of American people who are already suffering from obesity. And we do have a lot of depression. We have a lot of other factors that makes obesity more of a problem. Also our food industry. But they're cranking up the price. All right, so let's move forward. I'm just kind of putting things together. So this is what happened when you stop taking Ozempic. This is from Good Morning America. We're going to start to get into some real life type of scenarios. I do have the CEO that's on Capitol Hill. I may just like upload that separately. Just upload that on Rumble so people can get a full perspective of how lobbying works. Okay. Y'all know I like law. I like watching those Senate meetings and things. So this one is right up my alley. So that's what we're going to do. Let's put this on the screen. And this is brought to you. Now, we're going to show you other people who may say the same thing as Good Morning America or may say something different. So, we give you the mainstream, we give you the underground, we give you the good, bad, and ugly here. We give everybody a turn to talk about it. So let's just listen to what Good Morning America has to say.
Ozempic, it is literally the hottest drug in the country right now. But what happens when you stop taking it? Ozempic is part of a class of medications called GLP-1 agonists, and they are really important, safe, and effective for people with type 2 diabetes.
Now, we're going to have to say allegedly on that statement because we're going to go over how safe and effective it is based on the studies that we look at in part 2. Okay. So we have found that they have said this statement over and over and over, but things look a little different when you go to the NIH website. And then a couple more months down the line, they update it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to have to correct that for her. Let's keep it going.
But about 10 years ago in the world of obesity medicine, it was discovered, as we do with a lot of medications, that there is a side effect may be beneficial. And we're talking about the side effect of weight loss. Fast forward, one of these medications recently was FDA approved for specifically weight loss for people who are obese or overweight. And of course, like many medications, they are also used off-label specifically and exclusively and deliberately to affect weight loss. These are usually injections. They're given by the individual, by the patients. In the belly is the most common location, once a week. These medications are generally well tolerated, but one of the ways in which they work is by slowing the emptying of the stomach. So one of the side effects, not surprisingly, can be GI, nausea, in some cases even vomiting, as diarrhea or bowel issues, and in rare cases, pancreatitis and inflammation of the pancreas. And these drugs do carry a black box warning for a rare type of thyroid cancer. So what happens if someone were to take...
Y'all see how fast that went by? Can we just rewind it just a little bit? let's just go back. And then I'm going to tell y'all a story about someone who was taking a medicine like this, and us as nurses did not know. And it stopped the whole show. We had to figure out what to do. I'll tell you.
What happens if someone were to take one of these medications like Ozempic, lose some weight, and then discontinue or stop taking the medication? Obviously, it's variable. It's not medications like Ozempic, lose some weight, and then discontinue thyroid cancer of the pancreas. And these drugs do carry a black, and in rare cases, pancreatitis and inflammation of the
pancreatitis or inflammation of what?
Pancreas. And
pancreatitis or inflammation of the pancreas is the same thing. And that is what is shooting off the insulin. And people who have high rates of pancreatitis sometimes, and we're going to go over this and give you the numbers, have a high rate of pancreatic cancer. Okay. So I don't recommend doing things that mess with certain particular organs in your body because they're very sensitive. Okay. And diagnostics that goes along with monitoring that. And this is the pancreas in this particular conversation is something that a lot of healthcare providers don't pay attention to. That's not the first thing that they look for. You go nausea, vomit. We doing GI workups. We seeing if you have hiatal hernias. We seeing if you have acid reflux. We going all around the world. And the last thing is usually the pancreatic cancer. So I'm just being honest.
And these drugs do carry a black box warning for a rare type of thyroid cancer. So what happens if someone were to take one of these medications?
So we're going to learn a little bit more about the possibilities of the thyroid cancer when we go into the pathophysiology. So I would assume when we talked about neuro, remember it said tell the brain to what side to eat, or, kind of when they talked about those two things, I would assume that neurotransmitter is actually hit by hormone. So that makes sense if the thyroid is actually affected, because the thyroid is connected to hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. If you don't know that, what that is, hyperthyroidism is basically when you have affinity to lose weight. Your thyroid is working extra, shooting off that thyroid hormone. Sometimes people have anxiety, they have shakes, tremors. If it gets really worse, it goes into Graves' disease. You ever saw somebody so small and they eat but they don't put on weight, and one of the side effects is bulging eyes. So that's how we kind of know, or something close to anorexia. But Graves' disease is not nothing that's common, but that will be something that we look up, and that's related to the thyroid. So that's hyper, and it sounds like Ozempic is causing something to us hyper, okay? Because that hormone shoots to the brain to say eat less, eat more, okay? So, or hypo. So I don't think we maybe hypo issues, like, it's pretty much reversing it, because a lot of people have hypothyroidism in America. And that is, I think, definitely related to our diet. And what that leads to hypothyroidism is weight gain, vascular issues, people are more tired, lethargic, hormonal issues. Okay, does that make sense? So this is something that we have to go deep down the yellow brick road. So we're going to pay attention to the thyroid, neurotransmitters, because it's not, that's where that link is. And we're also going to pay attention to the pancreas and GI, because there was somebody, and we may go into that video today, who had an ostomy bag put on, because I would assume it has something to do with the motility issues. Okay. When we talk about motility issues, we're talking about that, and I'll be able to tell you this story where motility issues is basically your stomach contracts and breaks down the food. Your stomach and your intestines do that, just like your heart contracts and do what it need to do. That's some of the mechanism. So what that goes to say, when that slows down, your food is not digested. You have increased risk for blockage, increased risk for malnutrition, absorption issues. Sometimes that happens where you have motility issues related to intestinal swelling, blockage in other cases. but this does something to the intestines. She's not saying this today, but I have a feeling when we get into the NIH information, it's going to back up and clarify why someone allegedly, until I showed a video, had an ostomy put on, and I think they had to have some of their intestines removed.
Like Ozempic, lose some weight, and then discontinue or stop taking the medication. Obviously, it's variable. It's not one size fits all, and individual results and long-term results will tend to vary. But in general, we have to remember that the conditions of overweight and obesity are complex chronic disorders that have a multitude of factors leading to them. Behavior is one of them, environment, genetics, even other medications that may be associated with weight gain are a big part of the picture. So if you remove one of those variables, in this case, a medication that has been helpful in achieving weight loss, it is possible, if not likely, that the person will regain some or all or even more of the weight that they've lost. It depends on how much was lost in the first place. It depends on the person and their individual specific factors.
All right. I'm going to have to give GMA some credit because that was clear and that was concise, and not just trying to sell a product. They gave the little good, bad, and the ugly, and also add to the fact that you can probably put on more weight than you started because I know what she said, it's like a complex algorithm of being obese, and it is, but I don't think it's that hard for us to get it under control because as I mentioned, I'm going to always say it is lifestyle changes, it is your determination, it is your way of thinking that starts the process. And once you do that, environmental factors may play a part, but because me coming from, I'm gonna be honest, the hood, and a place where we have more bodegas, poppy stores, liquor stores, I was still able to go through my weight loss journey and be broke by going to different places. I'm gonna be honest, I was not rich. So I would try to I found Aldi's, I found a more, not just the farmer's market, the one, that store that's expensive, but farmer markets around me, things like that. I found different outlets to kind of get my fruits and vegetables that was fresh at a reasonable price. I also, lifestyle, we didn't eat so much. We ate, maybe because we was broke. We ate 2 meals a day. But with that goes to say they were good nutritional meals. And I'm going to be honest, the lifestyle that me and my kids live right now, if you see my son and my daughter, my daughter just lost a lot of weight because she was in college. She finally got out there and got broke. But my son, he's a pretty healthy young man, and he literally eats 1 or 1.5 meals a day. And that's not because we're starving him. It's because we had a lifestyle of really not eating a lot. So we will eat later on in the day. Probably don't eat. And it's not for everybody because your metabolism has to be based on your metabolism, what you're used to doing, your lifestyle, as of what I say. And you can change that and change your metabolism. Genetics plays a role as well. But all of that can be changed by lifestyle. So I just want to show you, because this man eat 1.5 meals a day. And he's not skinny at all. He's not wide shoulders, broad. And I'm just showing you this because what we do is eat 1.5 meals a day. And that's something that we have gotten into after restricting eating food that is basically addictive. Because when you don't have those food and you're not eating them, you don't crave them. And you're busy, you're doing stuff, you drink fluids, you might eat a little fruit or vegetable, you have a great hearty meal, probably 6 p.m., then you be straight. We'll talk about that when we talk about passive weight loss, but it is a lifestyle change and it is complex. So this is brought to you by today. Weight loss drugs are leading to Ozempic babies. So we want to get into another side effect because this is something that I heard that an old lady got pregnant. So hopefully we can watch this and see. Let's see what you just did.
Media. I'm pretty sure it is the talk of social media.
I'm pretty sure Ozempic got me pregnant.
Women sharing their stories about new weight loss drugs like Wegovy and Ozempic.
I stopped the medication at 3 weeks when I found out I was pregnant.
To say despite infertility issues or birth control, they're getting pregnant.
I got pregnant on a GLP-1.
Including Deb Oliviera.
Yes, I was taking semaglutide, which is also known as Ozempic. It's very welcomed. It may have been a shock and not at all in our plans, but we're open to it.
The 32-year-old Michigan mother of two struggled with fertility, including 2 miscarriages and a stillbirth. Last November, Deb turned to Ozempic to lose 20 pounds. She says her birth control usage was inconsistent.
Deb, were you warned that these weight loss drugs could increase fertility?
No, I was honestly unaware until after I found out that I was pregnant.
Fertility specialist Dr. Lucky Seacon has followed this baby boom online.
You're not surprised by any of this.
I'm not. I think for anyone who understands the interplay between body weight and ovulation, hormonal balance, and fertility, it's not surprising.
Because of the role she says obesity can play in infertility.
How can these weight loss medications?
I don't know. We're gonna look that up. How obesity affects fertility, because people be popping out kids. I knew some big women who popped out 6, 7 kids. They be pregnant sometimes, don't even know they pregnant. I don't totally support that. I'm gonna learn. We're gonna learn a little bit more, because I really never heard of that, where weight was correlated with low fertility rates. Have you ever heard of that, guys? No. We're gonna look that up.
Lead to an unexpected pregnancy.
Excess weight can really influence the hormonal balance. So if you lose the weight and that normal hormone balance is restored and you start ovulating, that can make you more fertile.
The phenomenon now tracked by Novo Nordisk, the maker of Wegovy. It has.
So you telling me they trying to correlate increased weight with lower estrogen levels? Oh no, we gotta write that down. That doctor, I'm gonna find who she is. She better be telling the truth. Let me write that down, because that's gonna be part of part 2. Increase lower estrogen. I'm sorry, I'm freaking out right now because I never heard of that correlation. I'm learning something new every day.
As an online Wegovy pregnancy registry for patients and providers to help healthcare providers, patients, and researchers better understand the safety of Wegovy and other weight loss medications during pregnancy. And in statements to NBC News, both Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly point out there is information on the package inserts that these drugs may cause fetal harm. Users are told to discontinue the drugs. But not all these drugs are the same. Dr. Seacon says Mounjaro and Zepbound can also impact the effectiveness of birth control pills.
These medications will work by slowing the motility or the movement of food through your gut. And that can lead to a lowered absorption of the medications that you take orally, like birth control pills.
Do they need to use a...
Oh no, I'm sorry. This lady is reaching. Who is this doctor? I'm gonna have to look this up. Y'all know I love my doctors, especially the ones I show up here, but I'm questioning her with some of the things. It will lower the absorption level. I'm done. She's reaching. No, I'm just being honest.
Second form of contraception if they don't want to get pregnant?
That's the recommendation. Yes.
You heard what that's why let's listen. I'm gonna shut up. She said this, that it lowers the motility rate, so it lowers the absorption level. So if it lowers the absorption level in your GI and you're taking oral contraceptive, allegedly she's saying that it's going to increase the risk of you being pregnant. But then I thought I heard something different. Let's just listen at the end.
Yes.
Now of contraception if they don't want to get...
And that can lead to a lowered absorption of the medications that you take orally, like birth control pills.
Do they need to use a second form of contraception if they don't want to get pregnant?
That's the recommendation. Yes.
Okay.
Now, there are warnings on both Mounjaro and Zepbound that these drugs can make birth control pills less effective. They also warn that taking these drugs while pregnant could harm the unborn child. Savannah and Hoda.
All right, Annie, thank you.
NBC News medical contributor Dr. Tara Narula is with us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Anne laid it out pretty well. Are you
did.
surprised to see these results?
I think it's really interesting that we're talking about this because so many people don't know. And I think there are two things really going on. You heard a little bit in the piece, but essentially we know through research and clinical data that essentially being obese, overweight, or having syndromes like PCOS can decrease fertility. So by taking these drugs and inducing a weight loss, you're potentially regulating the menstrual cycle and ovulation and improving fertility. That's issue number one. I think the secondary issue is you're changing the potential absorption of oral contraceptive pills because these drugs work by changing gastric motility. So you may not be getting as effective amounts of your birth control pills, which could cause a pregnancy that may be not intended. And also some of these drugs cause vomiting or diarrhea. Again, that decreases absorption. So those are the two reasons why I think we're seeing Ozempic babies.
There are people who are struggling with infertility who are thinking to themselves, maybe after seeing this, well, wow, if I use this, do you think it will increase my chances of having a baby? What's the answer there?
The message is not this is a fertility drug that women should be asking for. I think the bigger picture is that when women are obese or have some of these metabolic syndromes, we like to improve their status before they get pregnant because we know that obesity can be linked to gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, eclampsia. So, for example, if a woman was younger, wanted to get pregnant, was obese, she may talk to her endocrinologist or cardiologist about getting on these drugs for a period of time to reduce her weight and then stopping for about 2 months before a planned pregnancy. That's really what's recommended.
I mean, if you suddenly find yourself pregnant and you've been taking those drugs, you should stop taking them immediately, correct?
Correct. So again, we heard in the piece, these have not been studied in pregnant women. We don't do trials of drugs on pregnant women. So we have no human.
I thought you do trials on pregnant women. Yeah, I remember what we went over. And babies too. You don't do trials on pregnant women and babies? All right, I'm listening, ma'am.
In data, we have animal data that does suggest there can be miscarriage, some birth defects, and
they have animal trials that says there can be birth defects. That's where the trial starts at, guys. And that's how it get rolled into the human trials.
Growth issues. So the recommendation is if you are pregnant women. So we have no human data. We have animal data that does suggest there can be miscarriage, some birth defects, and growth issues. So the recommendation is if you are pregnant to stop, if you're taking it to stop 2 months in advance because you need that washout period. We'll have some clinical data, but not for another probably 5, 6, 7 years.
What is like a
Did you hear what she just said? I'm so glad she was honest. She said we will have clinical data, but in about 4 to 5 or 7 years. Exactly what we said at the beginning of this broadcast. That's usually how long it takes healthcare providers and the healthcare industry to figure out if a drug is actually effective and what it's doing when it comes to the human trial. I know they don't like that word, but that's what's happening in the first couple of years. Okay. So now we're going to start to get towards the end of our broadcast where we're going to give you real life scenarios. Some people who report their side effects and of Ozempic, and we're going to go straight to TikTok. You know how we do. We're just going to watch a few videos. We're going to do some of the side effects. And then as we showed you, people have miraculous results. But we want to show you both sides. So I remember this doctor stuff going viral. Let's listen to him.
You will get these side effects on Ozempic, but they don't include stomach paralysis. Real Dr. Bay, board certified plastic.
So he's saying no stomach paralysis. And that was when we talk about a low GI motility. The rate of it slows down. Paralysis is freeze. So he's saying no paralysis. Now, when we go into the clinical studies next week, I don't want to hear no paralysis, doc, because I'm gonna look at you funny. Let's go. Because you can't make definitive statements like that when you just heard it takes 5 to 7 years for you actually to get a full or a comprehensive understanding of the medicine that we put out. Not me, Big Pharma.
Plastic surgeon, this is my take. If you're online or on TikTok.
And he's a plastic surgeon. No disrespect, sir. You know, regular doctors laugh at you, but I'm gonna just shut up. They don't play. They laugh at plastic surgeon. No, they don't. Reconstructive plastic surgery is very important. I'm just playing, especially people with burns, people who have issues. So I'm just cracking jokes, y'all. Everybody's job is important.
TikTok, you always hear about stomach paralysis because it sounds so scary, but that is actually an extraordinarily rare side effect that's due to delayed gastric emptying. Delayed gastric emptying, one of the ways these medications actually work to help you lose weight. Statistically speaking, you're not going to get stomach paralysis, also known as gastroparesis, from delayed gastric emptying. What you will get from the delayed gastric emptying is nausea, vomiting, constipation, diarrhea, burping, bloating, and abdominal pain. Hopefully not all at the same time. And if you're going through a provider to get these medications, not a direct consumer website. If you're going through a provider, you can reach out to them and they can help you with these very treatable, time-limited side effects that will
he about to tell you, going to give you some more medicine for it.
Eventually go away the longer you're on these medications. For those of you who are having nausea from these medications, reach out to your provider and ask them for Zofran. They can help you and you'll get over it really, really quickly.
It's okay. I'm not going to say anything. You know how we do. You get a side effect, we're going to give you something else for the side effect. Let's get to the comments. Now, this right here, the young lady, this is alarming to me. Maybe because I'm a nurse, so when I hear this, I'm like, no. Because one of the things that I'm a little afraid of is the blood sugar dropping when these people take this? And are they telling them, look, get a little blood glucose machine and check your blood sugar? Because what she just said, it sounds like her sugar drops. She said, this is Melissa Stanley. I had horrible nausea for the first week or so. It slowly subsided. Now I'm just so thirsty all the time, which is great because I get all kinds of water in. Down 60 pounds in 6 months. First and foremost, we already know if you're a diabetic or and you suffer hypoglycemia, like your sugar drop, that's one of the first things that you start to notice. You thirsty, and you keep drinking. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, she needs to check her sugar, allegedly. I just have sofa burps. I don't like that. I don't like that per se. I'm just telling you how I feel on a personal level. The last time that I ever tasted like a sofa burp come up was when I was back in nursing school and I needed something to give me some stimulus, and I was drinking Red Bull. And Red Bull, and it really made me start to burp like metallic. And I was like, wait, I can't do this because my stomach was feeling like hollow. It was feeling funny. So I don't know directly what was going on, but I do think my pH of my stomach was changing. So that may be something. And I'm just throwing my story out there, okay? Because I don't really hear that as far as that's not nothing common in healthcare. We're like, oh, sofa breath, burp. What is that? If we smell like sweetness on your breath, we think of the liver. We think of that, like, alcoholic people who are far gone and have cirrhosis of the liver. You will hear it's a sweet smell that come off the mouth, like sugar, like literally sugar. Okay, one more comment. Makes me feel so much better with my PCOS, but I did develop stomach paralysis. We made the dose lower and it hasn't been an issue. So she says she got stomach paralysis, but she still took it. Okay, so let's see. Let's go to another video because he was one of the ones that went viral. Let's listen to this young lady. Fat loss warning.
Trigger warning. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. It's just going to keep on coming. It is a medication, but here is just more warnings.
It has been filed in BC, alleging the Canadian manufacturer of the drug didn't warn prospective patients about possible complications. As CTV's Shannon Patterson reports, the lawsuit is claiming severe side effects for some patients.
The first time Tracy Nygaard took Ozempic to treat her type 2 diabetes, she knew something was wrong.
I was very sick the next day. My stomach.
So it looks like she took it for her diabetes. This was November 3rd, 2023.
Hurt so much. I had pain and bloating and vomiting.
Ozempic was effective at controlling Nygaard's blood sugar, so she kept up with the once-weekly injections, but the side effects persisted.
So one of the reactions that I had, I did go to the ER. I said, I can't handle this anymore.
While the Quesnel mom eventually stopped taking Ozempic,
I feel scared that I have permanent damage, and I wish that I had been warned that there were severe side effects before I started taking it so that I could have made an informed decision.
She's joined a proposed class action lawsuit filed in BC Supreme Court for Canadians who experience severe complications while taking Ozempic for diabetes or weight loss and argue they weren't told of that risk.
We've already heard from dozens of Canadians who reached out to us and reported that they believe that they fall within the class definition, that they took Ozempic or one of these other drugs and then subsequently experienced some of these severe gastrointestinal or gallbladder related issues.
Boyd says some of the people who contacted his firm experienced something known as stomach paralysis.
It's a condition where food sits in the digestive system and it's delayed from actually voiding itself and causes severe stomach pain.
This North Vancouver doctor who specializes.
There's more.
Two of the most popular weight loss and diabetes drugs are facing a major lawsuit over claims about potential side effects. CBS's Janet Shamlian has the details.
They've been game changers in the world of weight loss. The drugs Ozempic and Mounjaro delivering big results, generally without dangerous side effects. But a lawsuit filed today against manufacturers Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly claims otherwise, saying the drugs can cause stomach paralysis, something they claim happened to their client, a 44-year-old Louisiana woman who took the drugs for type 2 diabetes and weight loss.
Her problems have been so severe that she's been to the emergency room multiple times, including last weekend. She's actually even thrown up so violently that she's lost teeth.
Stomach paralysis can be a side effect of diabetes, which the drugs.
That is terrible. I'm so sorry, yo. That's right there. That's a lot. Maybe it caused decay from her throwing up so much.
Are commonly prescribed for.
Because when you throw up a lot, that pH of your vomit can break down the enamel of your teeth. That's what happened with people who are anorexic. They have teeth issues. Their teeth can fall out, cavities, and things like that.
Rhea Hand, who is not involved in the lawsuit, has had similar issues with Ozempic.
Small.
The stomach pain was just unbearable, and I just couldn't keep anything down. I would drink something, and within minutes, like 5-10 minutes later, I would be throwing it right up.
More than 40% of Americans are obese.
Didn't I just say that? Sounds like anorexic side effects.
And for the medications has soared. They aren't cheap. A 1-month supply can cost more than $1,300. But now the University of Texas system says it will end insurance coverage for the FDA-approved weight loss drugs Wegovy and Saxenda in September.
Why would you use anything with black box warnings like this? Take a look at this. The list of side effects go on. And
said thyroid problem. We're going to get that box and read it to you guys. It says thyroid tumor allegedly on this box.
And on and on. Why would you want to suffer with diarrhea, thyroid problems, cancer risk, nausea or vomiting, or a wasting look? You look like kind of really sick. Think about that. This is not healthy.
All right, we're going to show one more video. She likes a Spanish girl, Ozempic, the downside. Let's see what she has to say. And where we're going to show our YouTube family is actually Nurses to Nurses News Network page. So you guys can get more information like this from Nurse Lashley. And if you have any stories that you would like to share as far as Ozempic, let me know. I know I had one subscriber who said that she wanted to share her story. We're going to continue with stories like this, and we're going to upload that in the next week or so on Rumble for you guys. So we're going to upload a series of stories and then also we're going to upload what the CEO is saying, because we already know lobbying and things like that plays a role on distribution and price. Okay.
Everybody wants to lose weight and everybody wants to take Ozempic, but there are some things that you need to know before you take Ozempic or any other GLP-1 med.
All right. This is a nurse here, okay? Charge Nurse Keisha. So definitely we're going to get a word from another fellow nurse. Let's play her on the screen. I'm excited. Go, girl.
A lot of these things I'm going to say, you're not going to like. So let's just jump right in. When you start taking a GLP-1 med and you lose weight, if you take the medicine away, there is a strong possibility that you will gain all of your weight plus more back, especially if you have not developed a routine when it comes to your meal plan, a routine when it comes to your body, and a routine when it comes to your mindset and your role on your weight loss journey. You see, a lot of people don't know these meds are used to treat a chronic disease. That disease is called obesity. Obesity is a chronic disease just like all the others. For example, diabetes, you treat that chronically, long term. Cardiovascular disease, you treat that chronically, long term.
Yep.
Autoimmune diseases, you treat those chronically, long term. So now that you know that, there's no need for you to start the medicine if you don't plan on A, taking it long term, or B, teaching yourself routines that you can manage effectively to prevent gaining your weight back. And time out. I'm not fussing, I'm educating. Okay, let's get back to it. So number 2, when you take a GLP-1 med like Ozempic, you will have gastric symptoms, side effects. Side effects like nausea, constipation, diarrhea, dehydration, headaches, sulfur burps, fatigue, body aches. I can go on. But one thing I can tell you, your good days will outweigh your bad, and dealing with minor side effects as opposed to staying in an inflammatory state secondary to obesity, exacerbating all of your other comorbidities, that's like a no-brainer.
We're going to stop right there. I want to send love to Charge Nurse Keisha. We don't see eye to eye on the end part where this is a miracle drug, and I myself as a nurse, you know what we do? We highlight passive weight loss, and that is going to lower your inflammatory process. That's going to allegedly help your immune system fight a little better. That's going to help you live a more long, luxurious, healthy life. Okay. We're going to continue this subject on Ozempic. It's probably going to be about a 3-part series or 4. You know what we do. For the people who don't know what we do, we're going to show you our Rumble page. We shout out to Rumble. I see you. Remove. I see you over there watching. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. I know I haven't been live in a while, but we're back at it. I've been caught up on YouTube, following this political issue that's going on in the state in Illinois. So this audience don't know about that on YouTube, but I want to say thank you so much for coming to check us out. Check out Nurse Lashley. You know how we do with our series. Well, I keep showing the same thing. I'm sorry. I'm showing the wrong Rumble page. All right. I'm trying to get to our Rumble page, so you'll be able to see what we're working with. Hold on. Is that okay? Is that okay to do? Okay, here we go. So here is our actual Rumble page. And it's at, hold on, I'm sorry. Y'all want to see the money that I didn't make this month? I didn't make nothing. Let's go to my channel. But we're going to get back onto it. So we have 2 channels on Rumble that's under my name, Nurse Lashley. It's Nursing Unmasked as well as mental health therapy vlogs. So I have 9 of them videos for that. Those videos highlight what I went through as a nurse. That was my decompression. That was the time that I was going through a lot of, and I was literally post-COVID nurse. So you'll see what I went through there. Also, we have a series of videos where we talk about various topics. So we're going to put that on the screen for you guys. This is our healthcare topics from a COVID nurse. All right. So here you'll be able to see some of the videos that we have put up. We talk about a variety of topics, as you can see. We talk about AI takeover, no more empathy continues, Ozempic, the warning foods that Ozempic warning. I did this a while ago. I talked about Ozempic 3 months ago. And foods that kill with Nurse Lashley. I do apologize. This is Rumble. This is Rumble content, okay? It's not for YouTube. So we also have topics like marijuana and our health with Nurse Lashley, the benefits of it, the side effects of it. I give you the good, bad, and ugly. We go into topics like embalmer's clots, if you don't know what that is, and a whole bunch of other things. I want you guys to take your time and go through that page if you're interested. I'm going to leave our Rumble information at the bottom of the video for you guys. And we want to share it with our YouTube family. So the YouTube family that was here with us today, Nurse Lashley wants to say thank you so much for being with her, seeing the other side of who you know as Grace Levi. This is what we do. So under Levi Productions, we have a few different genres, and one of the genres is health and wellness, and that is under Nurses to Nurses News Network. So we wanted to introduce that to you, YouTube. Thank you for letting us host it today. Please hit the like button, as well as Rumble. We want to say thank you so much for joining us today, Rumble, because I know I've been neglecting you guys, but Nurse Lashley is back to talk about the topics that you care about, the topics that are controversial, the ones that they may not want us to talk about it from all narratives, but you know what we do here. All right. We keep it uncensored. So with that goes to say, I pray you have a beautiful day. And most likely we're going to see you next week. We're going to follow up with this topic, and we're going to get into the A&P, pathophysiology, A&P and the pathophysiology, the good, bad, and the ugly, and what's on the NIH website. Okay. That's where you're going to get the cheese and bread.
Every day, a hero is reborn. She finds herself, her voice, and her purpose. Not because life handed it to her freely, but because she chose to accept life's gift of grace bravely.